Hello, everyone. Welcome. Thank you all for being here today. Before we get started, we are offering Spanish interpretation for those that need it. I'll go ahead and pass the mic over to Ana, who will share instructions on how to select this option.
Good afternoon. Hola, buenas tardes. Soy Ana. Voy a ser su intérprete este día. Si ustedes quieren escuchar esta presentación en español, una vez yo termine mi explicación, va a aparecer en el final de su pantalla un pequeño icono, que es un globo mundial que dice interpretación. Tienen que darle clic ahí, eligen español y pueden también silenciar el audio. Si ustedes eligen Mute Original Audio, solo van a escuchar al intérprete. Si lo dejan abierto, van a escuchar al intérprete a un 80% y al ponente principal un 20%. Si ustedes están uniéndose por medio de un teléfono o un iPad, tienen que ir a los tres puntitos que dicen More, eligen interpretación, eligen español y después eligen Done. Muchísimas gracias.
Thank you, Ana. We are also offering closed captioning. So if you'd like to add that option, go ahead and click on the three dots that say more on the Zoom toolbar, and then select closed captions, and this will turn them on for you. So my name is Perla Vanessa Barraza. I'm the Narrative Change and Applied Stories Project Manager. I'm a formerly undocumented fronteriza mexicana coming from Tucson, Arizona. And I've been in the Bay for about 6 years, and I come to this work as an actress, theater artist, and a former community organizer.
Hey everyone, my name is Maura Persh and I'm the Narrative Change and Applied Stories Specialist at USpeaks. I am fifth generation Irish American from the Midwest, Wisconsin, Minnesota, currently based in Hawaii. And I come to this work as a poet. So I've been a spoken word artist, performer, and educator for almost 20 years now and have been working with USpeaks for that entire time. So I'll be holding down the Q&A for everyone today in the chat.
Hey folks, and my name is Kat Vasco, and I'm the Narrative Change and Applied Stories Specialist along with Moira. I'm an immigrant from the Philippines, and I'm currently based in Los Angeles. And I'm coming to you as a theater artist, a filmmaker, a cultural narrative strategist, and a creative entrepreneur. Now that we shared a little bit about ourselves, we're really excited to meet you all here today, and thank you so much for co-creating this webinar space with us. To get a sense of who's in the room, I know you already started putting your names in the chat, but if you wouldn't mind putting your name back up and letting us know what your arts discipline is, and also if you already know, what fellowship tier are you applying for? So again, if you could just add your name, your arts discipline, and what fellowship tier you're applying for. And if you don't know that now, that's okay, because we're going to go through it and hopefully there's some more clarity at the end of this call. All right, so as you all know, this is being administered by USpeaks and the California Arts Council. And so just to share a little bit about USpeaks, our mission is to create spaces that challenge youth to develop and amplify their voices as creators of societal change. Now, this is a new initiative of USpeaks, and it's under the Power Lab umbrella of programs, where this fellowship, we get to focus on cultural organizing, narrative change, and the power of artists to change the world. And with that, we want to thank you so much for sharing your info in the chat. And thank you again for being here today to learn more about this fellowship.
All right, now that you, oh, sorry, Kat, you want to say something?
I was just going to say, we're going to close the chat at this time and move into the Q&A. So just in case you're like, where's my chat? We're going to move into the Q&A if you have any questions along the way. Thank you. Sorry, Perla.
No worries. All right, so now that you know a little bit about us, we want to share more about the program, and I'll just start by going over today's agenda. So today we'll cover the program's purpose, the eligibility requirements, the different fellowship tiers. We'll do an overview of the timeline, fellow expectations, and the review criteria. Then we'll go in depth into the application itself, and we'll also leave room for plenty of questions and answers. So again, put your questions in that Q&A box, and we'll go through them towards the end of the webinar. So the California Arts Youth Speaks Individual Artist Fellowship. I know it's a long title, but really it's the Individual Artist Fellowship. So the California Arts Council created this program because it recognized the few opportunities for individual artists to apply for funding and the even fewer opportunities for artists and culture bearers' achievements to be recognized. So the Individual Artist Fellowship, or the IAF program, really aims to recognize, uplift, and celebrate the excellence of California artists and culture bearers practicing any art form with unrestricted grants ranging from $5,000 to $50,000. The California Arts Council first awarded this grant back in 2021. So this time, the process is a little different in that the CAC has partnered with different organizations to help re-grant and distribute these funds across 4 regions within California. So Youth Speaks is administering the fellowship specifically for Region 4. So we're serving 35 counties in Northern California, and you can see them here on the map. They're the lighter counties. You can find the counties in the program guidelines, and we're also adding them here in the chat. And so every organization was given basically the same guidelines on how to administer the fellowship and award the grants. We all have the same eligibility requirements, but with like a slightly different fellowship application. We have a different review process and a different review panel. So please check out the California Arts Council website to learn more about the other 3 regions, Individual Artist Fellowship, and you can check out who they awarded in the different tiers. And of course, CAC is always sharing different funding opportunities, so that's just a great resource to have. So to be eligible for this fellowship, you must be a California-based artist or culture bearer creating art for change. You must live in Region 4, and you must be 18 years of age and older. I know there's been a slight confusion because of our name, Youth Speaks, but this specific opportunity is for individuals who are 18 years of age and older. So finally, recipients of the 2021 California Arts Council Individual Artist Fellowship are not eligible to apply at this time. The fellowship provides 3 different tiers of funding based on the category an artist self-selects into. So you may only select into one tier, but the review panel does have the discretion of moving an artist to a different tier if they feel the application would be more competitive in that tier. So you can see the 3 different categories. The first one is the Emerging Artist Fellow Award. So this is a $5,000 award. This award is for emerging artists that are in the beginning stages of making their work public and engaging the larger community in their practice. So individuals at this career stage may have had a few public showings of their work, but do not yet have ongoing resources or support. Then we have the Established Artist Fellow Award, and this is a $10,000 award. So artists in the established tier regularly make their work public and engage the larger community in their practice. And one slight difference between an established artist and an emerging artist, right, is this line. Individuals in this tier can give multiple examples of artistic and or cultural works that have made significant social impact. And then we have the Legacy Artist Fellow Award. So this is the $50,000 award. And artists in the legacy tier can point to a significant body of work produced over a substantial period of time that has engaged their communities and that has made significant social impact. So one slight difference between the established and legacy tier is the sentence right here. So artists in this tier may be able to point to emerging and established artists in that they have mentored or are otherwise positively influencing. So you can only select one tier based on where you think you are in the process. So that's up to you. Read those definitions, that's for you to decide. And a question we do get about these tiers is whether that funding is dictated by the age of a recipient. So we want to make sure that that's clear. No, awards are not dictated by the age. An award tier designation is determined based on where you are as an artist or culture bearer in the various stages of your artistic practice. And again, we really encourage you to review those descriptions thoroughly and determine which represents your own unique practice at the time of submission. The application officially opened on August 7th. And so we're very close, right? With this 2 weeks away from the deadline. We've had 3 application webinars, and this is our last webinar. We do have recordings of the past webinars, and we will be sending a copy of this webinar to y'all next week through email as well. Again, the application does close on September 30th at 11:59 Pacific Standard Time. Please make sure you click on the submit button to submit your application. You can make edits once you've submitted your application. To do this, all you have to do is request us to unlock the application. We'll unlock it for you. You can make your edit. All we ask is that you then resubmit the application, because we cannot review an application unless it has been resubmitted. We will then take all the month of October to review all applications, and we'll send out notifications to awardees in late October. Oh, I'm so sorry, I'm getting a phone call. Okay. And then we'll make the official fellowship announcement November 1st. And finally, the fellowship starts on November 1st, 2023 and ends September 30th, 2024. Awarded grantees must comply with all requirements as stipulated in the grant agreement, including but not limited to the following. So we're asking you to complete contract documents, participate and maintain communication with USpeaks throughout the duration of the fellowship. We want you to participate in some of the program activities we have scheduled. And this will really be a great chance to meet all of the other fellows in the fellowship. And then create thank you letters to better inform our elected representatives. And then finally, a final report, which sounds super serious, but really it's just a one-page narrative where you share what the fellowship meant to you and your community. Applications from individual artists and culture bearers will be reviewed by Youth Speaks and panel members in various parts of California. So excellence for the purpose of this grant is defined as an artist's unique artistic vision, ongoing commitment to creative practice, and engagement with and impact on the larger cultural ecosystem. Okay, to break that down a little bit more, and again, this is all in our program guidelines, so you can check those out there. Creative vision. So artists effectively communicates their personal story, artistic medium or practice, and long-term aspirations for their work. Aesthetic excellence. Artistic work and or examples of cultural practice demonstrate strong alignment with the components of the attributes of excellence in arts for change. You can see a link to this resource in the chat and in our program guidelines. So please read through those. There are very specific examples of how other artists are creating art for change. Our review panel will also be checking that resource out as they review applications. And then community engagement and social impact. So artists effectively communicate their engagement with their communities and the positive social impact their work has had locally, regionally, and or statewide, addressing themes including but not limited to race, diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility, etc. And our panelists will review and rank applications, identifying final cohorts at each tier that represent the diversity of Region 4's arts, landscape, and geography. So they will be using this 100-point scale, with 100 points being the highest score an application can receive. All right, and then I will go ahead and pass it over to you, Kat.
Thank you so much, Perla, for the thorough overview. But now let's dive into the application itself. So within the application, we'll be asking you about your artistic process through several things, right? One is an artist narrative, 2 short response questions, and then we also ask for 3 work samples, a 1-page resume or CV, and 1 letter of support or testimonial. We estimate the application will take roughly 2 to 3 hours to complete. Submittable is the platform that we're using for the application, and you'll need to create an account on Submittable in order to access the application. You don't have to create a new account if you already have a Submittable account. Submittable will automatically save your progress and allow you to continue making edits until you're ready to submit your application. Now, Submittable works best on Chrome, Firefox, and Safari, and not for internet Internet Explorer. So for the OGs using Internet Explorer, Submittable won't work on that. Okay, so Chrome, Foxfire, Safari are the best platforms, are best for the platform. Now, going into a few of the requests of the application, we're going to talk about your artist narrative, right? And this is where we want to hear about you, your art, your medium, your practice, why you create art, and your long-term aspirations and goals for yourself. The artist narrative can be submitted as a written response or a video. For the written response, the word counts listed is a maximum of 500 words for artist statement and no more than 300 words per question. We want to suggest focusing on the quality of your response versus length. We encourage you to keep your answers simple, concise, and direct. There's no expectation or weight given to lengthy responses. Now, if you're submitting a video response, we ask that you upload your video response to YouTube as unlisted and add the link to make sure they're accessible to us and our reviewers. Now, the 2 short answer questions, again, we ask that you write no more than 300 words per question. The first question is, describe how you engage your local community in your art making. How does your art practice include social cultural change practice? With this question, we're asking you to be specific as to how you are engaging your community and what you feel is the positive social impact of your work. We want to know what local, regional, or statewide issues you're working on, your work is addressing. And that can include different things, whether it's racial equity, diversity, inclusion, accessibility, climate, health equity, gender equity, right? So what is your work addressing? The second question is, how would these funds support you and your arts practice? What impact will this fellowship make in your artistic career? Given that these are unrestricted funds, again, unrestricted funds, we want to hear how these funds are going to impact your arts practice and plans. We're more interested in the impact of these funds versus requiring you to connect these funds to a specific project or providing a budget. You can provide a budget, but we don't require that for this application. Again, we're asking you to be succinct and thoughtful by capping your word limit to 300 words max. You're also asked to upload at least 3 work samples of past and or current projects that give the reviewers a sense of your arts practice, discipline, and community engagement. If you're submitting writings, your limit is 10 pages total, right? And that could be a mix of short stories, scripts, poetry, musical scores. Again, if writing samples, 10 pages max. If you're submitting images or renderings, your limit is a total of 10 images. Examples of those images can be pictures of murals or visual art, pictures of your beadwork, your basket weaving, pictures of classroom settings, etc., or ceremonies, right? If you're only submitting video or audio files, your limit is 5 minutes total. Examples of this could be a song you created or a video compilation of your different projects, a clip of a performance or choreography, or even a short film. We ask that you upload your video directly or link to your, or add the link to your video on YouTube. Please ensure again that this video is unlisted and non-password protected. If you are submitting mixed samples, we ask that you try to keep your work samples proportional to the parameters set. Now, what does that mean? For an artist who is a playwright, for example, right, and your 3 work samples can look like 5 pages of a completed script, 4 pages of a scene from another script, 1 page of a script outline to get the total pages of, to get to total of 10 pages. For an artist who's a singer or a musician, right, these samples could be, you could submit 3 samples. It could be a 1-minute long song, 2 minutes, and another 2 minutes to get that 5. Or if you want to do just a 4-minute song and a 1-page lyric, that's okay too, right? So just, you're going to be able to mix and match these two. And I'll go over that in a second. Yeah, actually, that was my transition. We know that a lot of us artists are multidisciplinary, right? And so you're welcome to mix and match your work sample media. So for an example, if you're both a performer and a visual artist, right, you could submit a 2-minute long video of your dance performance and maybe a slide deck of 5 mural images with captions and descriptions. So make sure you add captions and descriptions to all your work samples, right? The other question we get is, how does this apply to culture bearers? Culture bearers, we love you, we need you, and we need these cultural traditions. So samples can be images of basket weaving, audios of oral storytelling. If you're doing culinary, you could do culinary menus, plant medicine ingredients, photos of gatherings, videos, brochures, press, right? Press is also a work sample. It gives us especially if it's a review or an editorial covering your project. Okay, we're asking for well, not last, actually, there's 2 more things. One is we asked for a one-page resume or CV. And we encourage you to see this as an additional tool for storytelling. Hopefully it highlights and complements what you've stated in your artist narrative. You could add hyperlinks in your resume, but we can't guarantee that reviewers will be clicking through them. Our tip, right, for those who have super long CVs, uplift your most recent and most impactful projects. Again, for culture bearers, these can include ceremonies, gatherings, story circles, conferences, community engagement, awards. And just to give a quick example, as a theater artist, my CV or resume, I have selected performance work, selected work experience, right? Again, what makes my personal narrative stronger? Grants and fellowships, press, and education. So those are just an example from mine, but I know there's many different outlines out there. And again, what helps us see you and your work more completely. And then the last thing, for real, the last thing that we ask for is a letter of support from a person or organization who is familiar with your work. And that should be no more than 500 words also. We actually recommend maybe 250 to 500 words. And your letters of support should include the name of who's giving the testimony, their title, and their contact information. And you will be uploading the letter directly into the application on Submittable. Now, if you need any technical support preparing your application materials, Submittable has a great tech team. And if you have other program-related questions, please email us at powerlab@uspeaks.org. We're putting the sign-up form and the email in the chat. We also have designated office hours every Wednesday. So if you'd rather schedule one-on-one time or in a small group, you can join us then. And we're adding the link to the sign-up form for office hours as well. And it's also available on our website. Okay, that's the application. Now, before we jump into questions and answers, we do have one small request for you to fill out a quick survey, and we're dropping that in the chat right now. And this survey is anonymous and has no bearing on your application whatsoever. But it does help us track our outreach and reporting of this webinar to ensure that we can continue to offer future opportunities like this to aspiring artists and emerging artists and legacy artists, all of the artists. Your input is truly invaluable. So if you could just take a few minutes right now to fill that out, we really, really appreciate it. Now, as you complete the survey, we're going to start answering some questions. And so if you haven't gotten your question in the Q&A, please do so, and we'll do our best to address them all today. All right. Perla, you ready to take on these questions?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, so the first question we have is, could we send image and video like a mix of images and video?
Yeah, definitely. Yes, definitely. As Kat was sharing, we do accept mixed sample work samples. So if that means, you submit maybe like 5 images and then you upload a video that could either have more images or maybe is a different type of video, that could also work.
Awesome. All right, next one. Is 3 videos and 10 pictures okay?
It can be, sort of. So you could technically do 3 videos, but they have to be proportionate to that 5 minutes, right? So like maybe if they're each like 30 seconds long, which is kind of short for a video, but that could happen. And then I wouldn't do the full 10 images. I would try to, again, be under that 10 since you're putting videos in, right? So try to make that proportionate, whether that's like 50-50 or I don't know, 30-70, that's up to you. So I wouldn't do the whole 10 images and then like 5 minutes of video because that's way above what we're asking.
The next one is a recorded song is often over 5 minutes. Do we just submit a part of the song?
Yes, please submit a sample of the song. You don't want to submit more than what we're requesting because we can't guarantee that the reviewer will be able to look at all of your work samples if you've gone over, the first 5 minutes in the first video. So instead of getting a good picture of all of your samples, now we've only looked at one. So really try to stick to those work sample parameters.
Awesome. All right, next one is if some of the artist's work is in partnership with a nonprofit organization, is it okay to submit those work samples? Or is it important to have the work be only associated with individual artists?
That's a great question. You can have a little bit of both, right? Like we know a lot of artists, their work is rooted in collective work, and or you're working with nonprofits, totally. So yes, you can showcase some of that, but then also showcase some of your individual art practice because this is an individual artist award, right? So yeah.
Yeah. And I also say if it helps support, for example, the community engagement portion, it's great to highlight that too. So if you're gonna uplifting some of that, a work sample that speaks to something you speak in the narrative helps paint the picture, right? So yeah, all right. Can we submit with Vimeo?
I'm going to say that technically you can. We have a place where you can link to your video. I would still suggest and encourage that you try to stick to the parameter that we're asking for, which is that you upload the video to YouTube and mark it as enlisted. So I really want to encourage that. If for some accessibility reason you're like Vimeo is the only thing that I can upload it to, then go ahead. But again, I really want to encourage you to try to stick to that YouTube.
Can you submit a whole song on YouTube, directing a panel what portion to listen to? So this is adding timestamps.
I think, again, technically you can. I would just try to make it as less complicated, as the least complicated you can for the review panel. So I think it's easier if a review panel goes to that work sample and then it's already like 45 seconds, here it is, versus like they go to it and now they have to like search for the timestamp that you want them to. So really try to edit that work sample so that it's ready for the review panel.
Cool. Regarding the budget, can we use funds for admin work, rent studio fundraiser events, buying capital expense objects? Does the money come in advance or reimburse?
That's like the best part. No, there's so many great parts about this fellowship, but one of the coolest parts is that this money is totally unrestricted. You can do whatever you want with it, however you want to. Like, you don't have to provide us any receipts. This is your money. We're trying to get it out the door, as soon as we make this announcement. So that'll just go to you, and then you decide how you wanna spend it. Again, this is to like recognize and uplift the work that you've already been doing, right? So this is that, yeah.
How many of each tier will be awarded?
Yeah, so we're not sharing that number yet, just because as applications are coming in, like depending on how much applications we get with one tier or another. And also this is the first time we're administering it. So we're not gonna give that number out yet, but stay tuned.
Okay, here's a question on Spanish, or this language one. YouTube uses automatic speech recognition to add automatic captions to videos. The feature is available in English, Dutch, French, German, Italian, Japanese, Portuguese, Russian, and Spanish. ASR is not available for all videos. Automatic caption track created by automatic speech recognition. I'm not sure if that's a question on the limitation YouTube has. Maybe we could come back to that. And if you ask that question, if you could just follow up on the chat just to get a better sense of how we can support. It sounds like maybe there's limitations on YouTube that is concerning. So please let us know.
If that's the case, just feel free to email us at powerlab@youthspeaks.org, and we can also work one-on-one with you to see how we can support that that like interpretation translation shift.
So, thank you, Perla. That's great. Does this include live artists, presenters, organizers that are artists themselves and work to help present artists?
Yes, I think, yes, you can definitely make a case for that. I think, so yes, as long as you can show those work examples, if that's part of your art practice, please include it. Anything you want to add to that, Kat?
No, I believe that art curation, art production, and producers are considered artists and cultural bearers to me. So, yeah, yeah, that's all I would say. All right. Next one is, if an artist has a lengthy resume or cultural impact as a member of a group, but have very little individual recognition, would they be considered an emerging artist or an established artist? For instance, a bassist who plays with multiple established bands, but is looking to break into a solo career. It's a great question.
That is a great question. And I feel like I don't know if I can answer that for you. I think it's really where you feel you are in that, tier. So it's not something that I can do for you. I think it's more about like, what tier are you selecting and can you make the case for that, right? So if you have like really specific examples about your application, office hours will be great for that, because then I can like get a better understanding and have more context of what you're specifically asking.
Yeah, awesome. All right. Can you give some examples of a good person to write a letter of support? Does that person's role in the arts or community have any bearing on the application?
Yeah, so they can be another fellow artist or not. It really, what we've been suggesting is that you ask someone who can write, the best letter of rec, basically. So there won't be like weight given to who's writing your letter. It's more about the content within the letter, right? That's what we're really more interested in.
All right, next one. My main practice is photography, but as lead artist on a few CAC funded community engagement projects in our rural community, my work necessarily expanded to include storytelling, project exhibit design and installation, curatorial work, collaboration with other artists, partnering with local governmental, educational, and environmental organizations. Does this community engagement work and work samples from this work qualify for this grant?
Yes, totally. Yes, please include it. Select what you want to highlight and showcase, but yes, please include it.
In terms of social impact, does this mean you are most interested in community-based work, i.e. events, workshops, teaching, or does it mean simply work of social nature, i.e. about the climate, etc.?
I think we're asking for a mix of both, right? Like, I think people are going to define social impact a little bit different. Everybody's creating art for change differently. So it's really telling us how you're doing that. What is the impact your art specifically is having on your community. How are you defining community?
All right. Let's see, this other question we have. Winners of many awards for films, but how do I know the impact it had on others?
Sorry, can you repeat that one?
I think it's so it looks like, for example, there's films that have received awards, but it's hard to understand the impact on the larger audience. And I think even like knowing, I think some of the quantitative things that can speak to that is how many film festivals you go to, how like what is your estimated audience reach for your films can also qualify as impact.
Yeah.
Again, artists, as artists, right, we look at impact in different ways. And so in culture change, for example, we know it takes time to see how it shifts the larger world, but I think if we know that it's reaching folks and starting conversations, that also is helpful. I don't know if that helped. Okay. Next one is, what if we have a YouTube channel and our video is public? Do you still want a separate unlisted link? And to clarify, can we submit with Vimeo with a link?
Yeah, I think what I'm trying to suggest is that you stick to the parameters that we've provided. So if do the unlisted YouTube video, and what I'm saying is that if you have to use Vimeo link instead of YouTube, then we will accept that. But really, we want you and want to encourage you to stick to these parameters. And when I say that you can do Vimeo, I'm saying that through the application, you can add a link. And if you added that Vimeo link, like it would still show up fine on the application and the reviewer's end. But again, I really want to encourage you to try to do the YouTube thing because that's what we've asked for. And if you need help with that, just again, email powerlab@youthspeaks.org and we can maybe talk through that.
I have a couple more questions coming in. So legacy artists are not required to propose a project for the funds?
No, they're not. No. Again, these are unrestricted funds. This fellowship and application does not necessarily have to be connected or tied to some project. That's great if you have a project in mind that you want to use these funds for. You could use these funds for multiple projects, and or you could pay your bills with them. It's up to you to decide what you want to do with the funds.
Awesome. How many legacy fellowships will be awarded?
This will depend again on how many submissions we get for that tier and depending on the other tiers as well. But we know that we have $740,000 to give away. So we'll get back to you on that exact count November 1st.
Awesome. Next one is, can you flesh out quote unquote significant in the impact and contribution section and like how it's being assessed?
I think with these definitions, again, we're really leaving it up to you to decide what that means. Significant is going to mean different things to different artists, so it's more about you're making the case for that tier. Is there any other guidance that you think would be helpful, Kat?
I think in the significant, some of the things we'll be looking for is again, reach, right? We're looking for depth and width, like the depth and how wide the work is. When we're talking about significant art created that's been made public, that's by number, right? So significant is really like we're looking at the breadth of the impact that you've made, how wide it is, how deep it is. Okay, next question we have is, do you know if receipt of the individual artist fellowship funds disqualify artists from other CAC grants in the same fiscal year? Question.
That's a great question. We can double check with CAC folks, but we have not heard that that would be an issue. We also haven't heard if you've received any other awards from CAC that applying for this would be, an issue. So right now I'm going to say that that shouldn't be an issue at all.
Yeah.
But again, we can double check.
Yeah, we could double check it. I think this would be great to add to our FAQ. So thank you. Shout out to ask this. But like one of the requirements for this is that you didn't receive this exact grant in 2021, right? So if you're applying for another category that's maybe more project based, it shouldn't disqualify you from that. Okay, if one submits as a legacy artist but doesn't make the cut for funding, is it possible for them to be automatically considered in the established tier instead?
I don't know how to answer that. I think it's more about whether the application would be more competitive in a different tier. I don't think that if you were a legacy artist that all of a sudden you didn't get the money and now you're going to get the next one. I don't think it works like that. It would be like the tier you self-selected to, and if the review panel decides your application is more competitive, they'll move you. But again, that doesn't automatically mean you're going to get the next tier of funding down.
Okay. Can two individual artists but members of the same family apply? They would be applying in different categories.
Yes, as long as you're both individual artists, so you showcase your own work samples, and you're submitting two different applications. So yes.
Also, how awesome!
Mm-hmm.
I was a commercial artist for 17 years, but now teaching youth my tool sets. My submissions are showing you my work with them and what they are producing. Is this okay?
Yeah, I think if that's the way you're like kind of showing both your work and also the community engagement piece, that's great. Yeah.
Next question is, will all regions be represented in the panel review?
Not every county, so we're not going to have like a panel of like 35 counties, but we are trying to be selective and thoughtful about who we're inviting into the panel so that we have a good mix of different panelists.
Mm-hmm. If we are awarded the grant, what is the frequency of meetings and needs with You Speaks?
I'll pass that over to you, Kat. I think we're still trying to figure that out, but also we'll take fellows and awardees like input on that, right?
Yeah, and that's something we'll share once we announce the awards as well for the folks who are going to be a part of it. But we have optional, they're not required engagements where we do want to bring artists together. We know that in the past, these fellowships are great, but when we're in community with one another, that's where the collective power building happens. And so we are creating, and they're not like a monthly, there might be maybe 2 to 3 engagements in the course of the year where we have an opportunity to invite you to a professional development, an entrepreneurship kind of development workshop or something like that. We really, I think once we get the pool of folks we have, we want to be strategic about what offerings we have, but the main thing is really an opportunity for the artists to come together. And again, they'll be optional, but I think it's something that folks really want to be a part of. All right, are culture bearers and artists assessed in separate categories for each designated tier?
No, they will all be in the same tier. I think, applications are obviously going to look different. I mean, we're also getting different types of disciplines, so all in the same tier, in the same application.
And I'll also say that we have our panel is also it consists also of artists and culture bearers. So we do have folks that have the lens to review the applications coming in. All right, if we have a 20-year art practice and have won 50 grants and commissions and exhibited and showcased worldwide, but do not have more than a handful of young people, would I be established or legacy?
I think this is talking about that mentorship piece. I think that mentorship piece is important. It doesn't necessarily need to be like you mentored youth. So I would think through, what other artists have you has your art impacted, or have you mentored? But I do think that, again, that's in the definition, right, of a legacy artist. So I would look at that and try to think through if you have anyone that could fit that. Yeah, and again, we can't decide for you. That's the definition.
All right. What if we have multiple bodies of work that engage with different communities and issues? Should we describe all these or focus on one?
That's great. Okay, this is up to you. How you want, what you want to showcase. It's great if you want to show us all of it. If you want to focus on one aspect, that works too. I think personally, if I was submitting the application, maybe I would do a little bit of everything. But it just really depends on you, right? Like maybe you're working more on one specific thing versus another. So again, that's up to you. If you want to talk through that, join our office hours, and then maybe we can, I can maybe help you think through that. But it will come down to you decide you're putting the application in.
Right. All right, as a gallery owner, I am a facilitator of substantial community impact on my community. My role as a facilitator parallels my own work as an artist and muralist. Should I split the focus on the application between my personal art and the role the gallery has had and impact the gallery has had in our community? I'm also facilitating as an organizer and chairwoman of Humboldt Hip Hop Congress. These roles all intersect. Curious what to highlight: personal art, gallery owner, hip hop Congress. Yeah.
I think this is kind of like the last question. I think they're very similar in that it's really up to you on what you want to highlight. It sounds like you're doing awesome work. So if you want to highlight a little bit of everything, that'd be great. How you do that is up to you. Kat, is there anything you want to add to that?
No, I mean, I'm all about the intersections, so I feel like you're right. All these things do intersect. And I think that's having these intersections make us more powerful artists. And so, yeah, just getting that right mix. It's really like, what is the story you're driving at with all of these coming together? All right, last question, I think, is my family owns an arts nonprofit organization. Can I get a letter of support from them? If not, I would go to a different organization that I work for.
I think you can. Again, we're asking a letter from folks who know you and your work the best and your community engagement and can speak to the impact your art is having on your community. So you could definitely do that. And I don't have any other way. Yeah, it's up to you.
So that's it. That's all our questions today.
Okay. Any last minute questions before we start? Oh, I think we did.
Yeah, and thank you all so much for your questions. We try to update the FAQ sheet with new questions that pop up in these webinars. So we'll be updating that on our website. So if if any of these questions come back, hopefully it's on the FAQ sheet. And also, again, just want to reiterate that we have office hours and we're available via email as well.
And this was our final webinar. We will have a recording of all the webinars on a playlist that we will send to you sometime next week. And so you can check those out. That playlist is also, you can find that in our FAQs of in the program guidelines on our website. But yes, if you have any friends, other artists, culture bearers who maybe, are feeling some imposter syndrome and are like, I'm not going to apply, please ask them to apply. If they need someone to talk them, convince them, please have them email me so I can talk them through it at powerlab@youthspeaks.org. And then we do have office hours. So those are every Wednesday at 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. So register for those. I think we'll be adding a link in the chat. Perfect.
And I think lastly, we just want to make the second S. If you didn't fill out the survey from earlier, if you just fill it out, I swear it only takes like 3 minutes. Please fill that out. We're dropping that in the chat. Thank you so much for joining us. We're excited and good luck on the applications. Yeah. That's it. Thank you, folks.